Yeah, so a lot of what I remote view is fueled by my own curiosity and Antarctica, but specifically recently, I've been really curious about the Antarctic wall, the ice wall. Because a lot of people have been talking about this, and I wanted to sort of deep dive and see if I could find it as a remote viewer. And I went looking today. And of course, I have been to Antarctica before. And so it's definitely not a new destination for me, but I've never before actually looked for an ice wall. And of course, what I discovered today was really, really awesome. So hang into your bootstraps. I got 2 full pages of notes today. I'm really hoping I can read my writing because I was scrambling to write it all down. But let's first talk about what exactly is the concept of the Antarctic ice wall. So this concept actually, and I learned all about this today because I actually didn't know. All I've heard is about this ice wall and that there are potentially lands and other things beyond the ice wall. So I wanted to know, like, what is the current sort of rhetoric out there? Like, what are people talking about right now? So here's what people believe online, okay? And then, of course, I just sort of go in and do my own thing without any sort of attachment to preconceived notions or the outcome of the remote view. So the belief is that Antarctica itself is a giant ice wall. So the landmass itself is a giant ice wall, and essentially this ice wall encapsulates the entire planet, and all of our continents and oceans and everything are sort of in the middle. And then what they believe is that the North Pole is actually the center of this landmass. What I'm talking about here is flat Earth. This is a very deeply rooted flat Earth belief. And I didn't know that. I actually didn't know that the whole belief around the ice wall is a flat Earth thing. I thought that it was maybe more of a conspiracy theory or just like a mystery that was like unsolved. So I learned that today. So that's essentially the belief of the ice wall. And then some people, right, some flat earthers believe that there is land beyond the ice wall. Some believe that the ice wall is it just sort of contains us, and then we're in this dome-like structure. And yeah, okay, and you know what? I was talking to someone not too long ago about the dome, right? And they're like, have you ever remote viewed the dome? And I said, I mean, no, right? But as you leave the planet, there's sort of the atmospheric dome. And then on top of that, there is an energetic structure that contains the planet. And I call it the consciousness grid. And what I've seen throughout history, and I don't want to go into it too much, but a very long time ago, I looked into this consciousness grid, is what I call it anyway. It's essentially a series of energetic ley lines that connect every single conscious living soul on the planet. And that way we are all interconnected without having to actually physically communicate or interact. This idea of this consciousness grid can actually be proven by science. There's sort of this monkey theory where like monkeys on an island learned some sort of new skill with some sort of new tool, and then different monkeys from like a different continent across the planet learned the same thing at the same time. But of course, it's not like they're like calling each other on the phone and telling them that. So there has been sort of situations that have proved that we are all interconnected in sort of a weird way. And with this consciousness grid, I don't know why I have to talk about this right now because it's definitely not part of the video, but with this consciousness grid, what I saw is that this is sort of the original prison planet system, and that the energetic grid system was actually meant to keep us completely contained. And then it was sort of taken over quite a while ago, and it allowed us to connect consciously. So at first, it sort of kept us in this karmic cycle loop, and now it actually allows us to ascend exponentially because we can learn from each other without even having to communicate. Anyway, so that's fascinating. So when it comes to the flat Earth theory, I'm not a flat earther. As a remote viewer, I only believe what I experience firsthand, so I can't, blame anyone. In fact, I'm actually appreciative of the flat earthers because they're questioning the narrative. So go have at it, go for it, right? Like question what we have been taught and what we have been told. I am all for people who are pushing back and questioning the narrative. I myself cannot believe in that because that's not what I've seen. I've left the planet many times. I see the planet as a round sphere. And like I said, that dome maybe possibly could be explained by either the atmospheric level or this sort of consciousness grid system that I've also encountered on a numerous number of occasions. And then, of course, I've been into outer space, which also does exist. And then out there, there are also planets that are also round and spherical. And that's just what I've experienced as a remote viewer firsthand. But take it or leave it, right? If you haven't had that firsthand experience, I don't blame you for being like, well, anything is possible, because it truly is. Like that's just what it is. But that being said, I went to Antarctica today and I explored everything. I mean, in particular, I was looking for an ice wall. So I went there, I saw sort of the land mass, and I would call it like an ice shelf of Antarctica. So I didn't really know what I was looking for, but I was specifically looking for a giant ice wall. Like that's really the only explanation that I had to go on. I couldn't find it. Like I said, I found like an ice shelf, and so there's so much information, but I also went back to the original underground military base and facility that I went to originally back in like 2010 or 2011. And that's when I got kicked out. So when I went back there today, it was really quiet. There weren't a lot of personnel there, but I will say that the second I stepped into that base, there was a man of sorts. I would call him a hybrid man. And it was so fascinating because he looked like, I'll just say it because you're on the channel and I'm just gonna say it. He literally looked like he had a half human face and a half reptilian face. And it's really bizarre for me because usually I either see them as full reptilian or full human disguised as reptilian or what have you. And this one was like half and half. Like it actually looked like a bit of like a genetic mutation or something. Anyway, and now a long time ago when I originally went there, they were working on genetically engineering or creating these like super soldiers. And they were specifically doing this with working with different splicing of DNA, reptilian DNA included in this. And so I'm kind of thinking like, is this guy who was patrolling the base potentially a part of those experiments that were going on 10 plus years ago? Anyway, so I literally pop into this, I guess like the base, but like more, it wasn't a room, it was more like a hallway or like an open, more of like an open space, not necessarily just a hallway, but an open space. And he's standing there and he sees me immediately, which really freaks me out when like a physical being can see me. I know that other extraterrestrials in other military bases on the planet can see me. I know that when I go to spaceships, they can see me. But anyway, yeah, so he immediately saw me. And then he followed me out of the base. And then anyway, I don't have to tell you all the details, but essentially I went like this and I created this huge like white light bubble or like burst or bomb. And I went like that, and it's like this huge energy exploded. Sometimes I do weird things and I don't really think about them. They're just sort of intuitive in the moment, but kind of to get him off my back. And then I had to basically leave and then come back. And I've had to do this before. Anyway, and I was kicking myself because when I did a huge explosion, it actually caught the attention of some other personnel that were there. So that was not a great idea. Anyway, it's fine. I was able to sort of view it from a distance, let's say. I didn't go back in. And it seems like the base is still active. It's still active and under leadership or control by the shadow government. And specifically, it was, what did I write down here? Okay, military base underground Antarctica, quiet but hybrid soldiers patrolling. Yes, still a communication hub. That's what I saw, that it was still a communication hub, and very specifically a communication hub for something very important. And let's get into this thing that's really important, okay? Actually, yeah, okay. So this is the real reason for the mystery. So there's a lot of people, like there is prohibited airspace in Antarctica. There is like very heavy military presence there. There's heavy restrictions there. There are like people and influencers that have gone there and then they get really weird about it afterwards. And I know why, okay? And unfortunately, all of the mystery and all of the intrigue and all of the sort of restrictions and limitations, it fuels the ice wall theory. It fuels the flat earth theory. And absolutely it would, because there's a lot of stuff that is being hidden there. Not to mention, I believe that the Google satellite, Google Maps or Earth, and NASA, like all of the images of the planet are always covering stuff up all around Antarctica, okay? So of course there's going to be intrigue there. Of course there's going to be mystery. Of course it's going to fuel some of these theories. Here's why, okay? And I saw this the first time I went to Antarctica, and I did not know what I was looking at because I'd never been there before. There is a giant hole in Antarctica. We're talking like a massive hole, okay? That would absolutely be seen by satellites, that they absolutely cover up or Photoshop or whatnot. And the military base is actually right beside this hole, okay? So what is the hole and where does it go? This hole goes deep, deep, deep underground, and then it emerges to a giant, essentially hollow earth or inner earth civilization and community. Like, it's wild under there. Like, it actually looks like a tropical rainforest, right? Like, how is that even possible? They have a, I don't know if I want to call it like a manufactured sun down there, but they have their own light source that fuels the whole ecosystem. There is a giant ecosystem down there. It feels like it's above ground, but it's absolutely not. And then there are beings down there. There are many, many, many different beings down there. And I got to go into it because this video is going to be more about inner earth. I should probably change the title now that I think about it. Okay, I'm just going to read from my notes for a second because I want to get all the points. So the real reason for the mystery in Antarctica is the hiding the hole, right? Hiding the entrance to the inner earth civilization, preventing people from entering or people from leaving, okay? So there's, okay, yes. What else? Also, I just want to talk about the land of Antarctica as well, because back in the day, and what I picked up on, which was, it's just a weird timeline, but hear me out. This is gonna sound weird. 3 world events ago. Let me explain that for a second. So I'm taking a look at the landmass of Antarctica, specifically trying to find this ice wall, right? And then potentially the land beyond the ice wall. And so I was taking a look, like underneath the ice and underneath the snow are like really ancient civilizations. It seemed like Antarctica used to be a jungle in its own right, or like a thriving civilization. And there are like ancient structures and like very sacred sites that are also all around Antarctica. And I was just kind of wondering, like, this is just a speculation here, but just because I was looking at that, I wonder if it was a sacred land because it was sort of protecting or hiding the hole that goes into the doorway that goes into inner earth. Like, I'm just wondering, right? And so when I asked the question, like, when was this a thriving like jungle or like rainforest? The information that I got was 3 world events ago. And like, let me explain this. The world has essentially died and been reborn, I want to say from what I've seen, around 7 different times. Like, essentially, we're like on the 7th iteration of the world. And what I mean by that is, like, there's been great floods, there's been, meteor situations, there's been basically cataclysmic world events. And so what I saw was that 3 of these world events ago, what a weird sort of time frame to even pop up. is when Antarctica was greatly inhabited, is what I see. And then also, this is what I picked up on, ETs would go there and then live in inner Earth. And when these cataclysmic events would happen around planet Earth, there were a lot of civilizations, and one that I've seen down there especially is the Mayan. The ancient Mayan civilizations actually went underground to live in the inner Earth civilizations in order to avoid cataclysmic events that were happening on the surface of planet Earth, and even potentially events like colonization, right? So it's fascinating what's going on underneath the planet that no one is talking about. All right, let's see. Pyramids and sacred structures in Antarctica. There's a cover up there. Also, like, I really feel like there's ancient technologies that are there as well. A lot of government interference. Anyone there is told basically not to talk about it. And then, like I said, Google, satellites, NASA are doctoring photos of Antarctica to essentially cover up this inner Earth civilization. Okay, so then, right? So then I'm like, you know what? I really didn't see much about this ice wall and this, like, these other lands or continents. So why not go into the hole? Like, why not just like creep around a little bit, right? So that's what I did. I'm just gonna read off my notes because I don't remember all the details. Restrictions around, yeah, okay. Oh yeah, okay. So this is what I wrote down. Restrictions around inner Earth opening are getting released. And I don't know why, right? But it seems like there was a lot of restrictions. I'm just repeating myself now, but it seemed like there were a lot of restrictions around the whole of inner Earth, and now they're getting released. I also want to mention, I know it's going to sound crazy, but I'm just going to put it out there because I saw it as a possibility. Strange creatures possibly escaping from inner Earth in Antarctica. And I specifically saw like flying creatures. So they could potentially look like more prehistoric flying creatures. They could potentially look like mythical flying creatures, like maybe like dragon-like type creatures, or like, I don't know. I don't know what they would be, but there's a potential for species to escape or to leave inner Earth, which is fascinating. And that would be like some weird stories, I guess, coming out of Antarctica, or people like on boats or cruise ships around Antarctica, like seeing weird things. Oh yeah, okay. Then this was weird. This is what I saw. There's inner Earth outlets, is what I called it, all over the world. And what I mean by that is, like, basically there's other inner Earth gateways and doorways and holes all over the world, and some of them are actually underneath the oceans. And so there is movement in and out of inner Earth every once in a while. Like I said, it is restricted, but the restrictions are being lifted right now. Okay, and then I saw that the power dynamics are shifting. The old world is falling, and people are being distracted. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. All right. So before I get here, I want to talk about this being that I ended up meeting in the inner Earth community just today when I remote viewed it. So I go down this hole, right, and I'm taking a look around, and I wanted to talk to someone who could maybe provide answers about inner Earth and about humanity and about what's going on right now. And I've ended up meeting this being called Nasani, is what she called herself, Nasani, Nasani. And she, oh shoot, I actually have a picture of a very similar looking being. Hold on, let me go get it. Okay, this isn't her, but it looks similar to what she looks like. That's kind of what she looks like. Not exactly. Anyway, so she is a Sirian elemental hybrid. This one is a Pleiadian Sirian hybrid, sorry. But she looks very similar. I saw her, I was like, wow, you look so familiar. I wonder if I have a picture of one of these beings. Like I said, this isn't her, but very similar to what she looked like. So anyway, her name is Nasani, hybrid elemental Syrian being. She was down there, and then she was talking about how everyone is distracted by looking up, and they're all forgetting about their history. That's what she said. Everyone is distracted by looking up. And she was kind of referencing like cosmic disclosure from above. And she's saying that we're forgetting about what's always been below us, which is this huge inner earth, hollow earth community and civilization. So then I asked her, right? So then I get into a conversation and I start writing down verbatim what I'm asking and what she's responding with. So I'm just going to be reading from my notes. I said, why don't you guys just show up? Like point blank, like why don't you just sort of come out and say, hi, we're here. Here's what she said. It was so fascinating. Contamination. She said that they're really worried, like they've been down there for so long, and then I guess up here has been getting so bad that they can't actually come up here because of the amount of contamination. And when I asked her what she means by contamination up here, she said the air and the frequencies. The frequency contamination and essentially the toxins contamination, like their bodies could not handle it. So she said that they could come up, and it is something that they have talked about, but they would have to be in suits or some sort of protective gear, and it just wouldn't be the same. And I just thought that was so fat. Like what an interesting answer of like, why wouldn't you just show yourselves, you know? Like you want us to know about you, so why don't you just show up? And she's like, it's too contaminated. And I'm like, damn. We got to clean this planet up. Okay, then I had to ask, are there land masses being hidden from us? Because of the whole ice wall theory, and then like these continents or land masses beyond the ice wall, I had to ask her, are there land masses being hidden from us? And she literally said, we are on one. Being like essentially implying that the Antarctica landmass is being hidden from us. Like we're on one right now that is being hidden from us. I thought that was also a very interesting answer. So then I get into the nitty gritty, right? I have to. I said, do you have hope for humanity? Like straight up, do you have hope for humanity? And she said, surprisingly, more than ever. So nice. Then I said, right, then why does it seem worse up here? I'm so glad that you have more hope than ever, but why is it worse than ever, right, up here? She said, that is only what you are being led to believe, that it's getting worse here. And I'm like, okay, I'll take it. But also that makes sense. Like we're feeding into the narrative that it's getting worse, and behind the scenes, things are shifting. And they being the shadow government, they don't want us to know that things are shifting and they're getting better, and like the ascension is here and it's unstoppable. Anyway, I will not rant about that. Then I asked, I can't read my own writing, sorry. Are you connecting? That's the word. Okay. Are you connecting with the governments at all on planet Earth? Like, wouldn't you think, right, that a giant inner Earth civilization would be talking with the governments or the shadow governments up here? And she said, they try to keep us quiet. So obviously they know about each other. And obviously now I realize the underground Antarctica military base is right beside the giant hole of the inner Earth opening. That is the mystery, that is the intrigue, that is the conspiracies, right? That's the cover-up, that's the no-fly zone, is all that. So she said they try and keep us quiet. So then, she did say, on top of that, we do work with alternative organizations for the benefit of humanity. So then I said, what is one big thing that you're working on right now, right? If she's saying like, we're working with other organizations for your benefit, I kind of want to know, what are you working on? You know, how are you helping? And then she said, disclosure. That's what they're working on right now. Disclosure so that you know the truth. She said, we have the knowledge and, oh, this is so fascinating. Hold on. She said, we have the knowledge and wisdom to bring you back to your original DNA blueprints. And then she said, before the fall. So let me just read that again. We have the knowledge and wisdom to bring you back to your original DNA blueprints before the fall. I was like, what do you mean the fall? Like, what is the fall? So I had to ask. She said, this is fascinating. Take it or leave it, guys, all right? This is just relaying information. So I said, what was the fall? Or what is the fall? Like, what are you talking about? And she said, when codes were inserted to ensure your demise through disease, shortened lifespans, and lack of memory. Let's just take that in for a second, okay? So she's essentially saying that they, being the Inner Earth organization. All right, we're back. Cool. Weird freeze there. Okay, so she is essentially saying that the Inner Earth civilization has the original blueprints, right, for humanity's DNA, like our original DNA, and that they have the technology to bring that back in us. But she's also saying that at a certain point in time in human history, they, I guess, either the shadow government or the reptilians or the Dracos or whoever, right, who's kind of been in charge and manipulating, they sort of limited our lifespans, they cut off our memory, and they inserted these codes in order to bring on disease for population management, essentially, right? This is what she's saying. And apparently the Inner Earth civilization can bring us back to our original DNA blueprints, which is wild. I'm like, I did not expect this whole thing to go this direction, you know? Anyway, that's what's like the beauty of remote viewing. You have no idea what to expect. Okay, so then of course I had to ask, what needs to happen in order to get back there? That's great. There was a fall, there was corruption, there was, limitation, there was depopulation. What needs to happen in order for us to get back to these blueprints? Like, what do we need to do? Do we need to go to Antarctica and knock on your door and say, bring me back, restore my natural DNA? And then she said, which we've heard before from other ETs, mostly off-planet, she said, remember who you are and ask to be returned collectively. So like, all right, it's one thing to go through a spiritual awakening and be like, I'm ready to remember who I am. And maybe you go through some past lifetimes, or maybe you have a weird dream, or maybe you have like some like spontaneous spiritual awakening and you're clairaudient all of a sudden. And I've seen all of that, okay? But she's specifically talking about as a collective, as a civilization, we need to be asking for more. We need to be asking to remember, and we need to be asking to be returned to our original divine state, right? You know what? No. Okay, sorry. I just had like a weird thought. I was like, was the whole like Adam and Eve story and like eating the apple, was that like apparently the fall of humanity? I don't think so, but I don't know why that just popped into my mind. I'm like, my human is like, just like trying to figure it out, but I'm not gonna speculate. Anyway, okay, so then I just told her, okay, I'll leave it there for now. Thank you so much. So guys, it's funny because as a remote viewer, you wanna confirm certain things. For me specifically, I really hunted for this ice wall. I could not find the ice wall. I couldn't find the land masses beyond the ice wall, but I went back to that inner earth hole, and I think that there's a lot of information here for us to sit on. I think it's really important for us to realize that, yes, disclosure can come from above, but we also need to realize that disclosure can come from underneath us. And if ancient Mayan civilizations and indigenous civilizations and other extraterrestrials are all existing down there, especially with our original blueprints, like, what does that mean for us? And what happens if we make full contact with them? What happens if we ask for contact with them, right? We're all distracted by these government released files and other things, but what if it's just a giant distraction also away from the inner Earth civilizations? And why isn't that a conversation that we're having more often? And I truly believe now, looking into it, that that is the greatest cover-up in Antarctica right now. That is exactly why there is a hidden underground military base right there, right? It is to ensure that nothing goes into inner Earth and nothing comes out of inner Earth. But with these restrictions being lifted and resources dwindling on the side of the shadow government, what is that going to mean for inner Earth civilization and all of us moving forward? I think the possibilities are endless. If you guys want to know more and actually see me do remote viewing just like that and having conversations with beings like this, then check out my monthly Galactic Federation summits. I just had one on May 11th. And it was awesome. It was actually all about contact and disclosure and what we need to do to get in contact with organizations like the Galactic Federation and our own galactic counterparts. So check that out if you're interested. And other than that, guys, I love you so much. Keep up the good work. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really do appreciate you being here. Question everything. As always, take it or leave it. I'm just here to relay information. If it resonates with you, it's for you. And if not, no big deal. Walk away and have an amazing day as a human being, human hybrid being on this crazy, crazy planet we call Earth. All right? The time is now. And you, my friend, are ready. Let's go.